You're listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Theresa Lear Levine. You're already enough, but if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching, creating, and aligning with the person you feel called to be, and creating greater calm, clarity, and confidence in your life, as well as room for pleasure and expansion. Through amazing stories, conversations, and offerings, this podcast is here to inspire and support you. Get ready to release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our consciousness and vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Becoming More Me. I'm really excited to introduce you to somebody who I've been getting to know a lot over the last year and feel confident in calling a friend. Dr. Jannine Krause is here with me today, and otherwise known as Dr. J. And she is an acupuncturist, a naturopathic doctor, and the host of the Health Fix podcast, which is actually how we met through me going on her podcast last year. And we had a fabulous chat about EFT, and then we started working together through my Becoming More Me signature program, and shortly after that. So we've spent a lot of the time since then getting to know each other and found all sorts of ways that, EFT and subconscious work really translates beautifully into her client work since then as well. And her work has inspired me to begin seeing a local acupuncturist myself. I wish I could just come see you, but the distance is a little bit far between the two of us. And also just to have more awareness around what's going on in my physical body, especially as I get closer to, perimenopause, and such a cool ripple effect that's happened between the two of us. And we're both the same age, so we have a lot of common ground in our mid 40s too. And the things that are going on in our bodies and minds, and also the things that we remember from growing up because of growing up during the same time frame. And so, Jannine's on a mission to help women over 35 to have energy all day, and believes age is just a number and the clock can be turned back on your health with a little sleuthing out of what's aging you. And with that as a leading principle, she created the Defy Aging Formula to help women discover where to focus their efforts to become their own best doctors as they get older. When she's not helping women realize their full potential, she loves being in the outdoors, going on adventures with her husband and dog, growing fresh herbs and veggies in her garden, and using them to whip up delicious, healthy dishes in her kitchen. And I'm so glad she's here. Welcome, Jannine.
Thank you, Theresa.
We have so much to talk about today. As we were just kind of warming up and we kept talking about things, I was like, oh, we need to just share all of this. So I guess start by telling me a little bit, or telling us, I already know so much about you, I feel like, but tell the audience and listeners a little bit more just about you, where you live and, how you enjoy spending your days.
Yeah. So, of course, I'm a naturopathic doctor. And so, a little fringe of fun with herbs and food, always my favorite. And so I live currently in Wisconsin and then travel to Tacoma, Washington to practice. So I've got kind of this interesting mix there, which makes things fun too. And the biggest thing about me is like you kind of said, I love sleuthing out what's going on with folks. I love trying to figure out okay, where did things begin, kind of like you, and how can we help the body regain balance, but also tweak it as time goes on? Because I think that's one of the things too we forget is we get into the health world and we're like, all right, I'm gonna balance my hormones and it's all done, and then I'm done and I've checked that box and we're moving to the next thing. But really it's a continuum, and
because they keep changing, don't they?
Things change. Yes, things change. Lucky for us is not every day once we kind of get a settle of the original balancing, but as the decade goes by, as 5 years go by, my goal is really to help folks learn how to become their own best hormone doctor so that they can kind of tweak things as life goes on and track enough to know where something's going off the rails. Yeah.
And I think we notice that change more as we get older. I know I'd have, at least. And, and since I've entered my 40s, weight gain has happened with a lot. It happened easier than it used to happen. And also, I've just noticed those fluctuations in my hormones so much more. Like lately, we're trying to sleuth out this just awful irritability that I'm getting both before and after my cycle. And it was never like that before. And I mean, thankfully, we found some good things between supplements and the subconscious mind work that I do with myself and with, the coaches that I work with. But it's always changing. And I think that can get a little bit frustrating too, because it feels like as soon as you get on top of it, something changes and you have to adjust again.
It is definitely like that, especially in the perimenopausal realm, because we are on roller coasters with estrogen. And when it's high, we could be feeling like super bloated, puffy, and just ick. And then when it's low, then we're depressed, then we're feeling, sad, things make us teary. And then like halfway in between ends up being that irritability. Or if the progesterone comes on a roller coaster too, it's I don't want folks that are listening to this to be like, oh my God, there's no solution. There totally is. It's just really a matter, and like you're doing, tracking it, seeing what, provokes what, and stress has a lot to do with it. Mental, emotional, and physical, infections, things of that nature can also be when this is the time when those chronic things, like I used to get strep throat when I was in my, young years up to my teens. Sometimes that never leaves us, which we are like, I've had how many antibiotics? It should be gone. Sometimes it hangs out, and this is the time in which we end up having some fluctuations. So there's lots of different interesting things that the more you track, the more you pay attention, you can sleuth out.
Yeah. And then it's just a matter of getting people to slow down in order to do that. I love to say, slow is the new fast, but we're all
Mm-hmm.
so hung up on productivity and getting all the things done. And oftentimes that comes at the expense of our health or even just our own awareness, consciousness
Mm-hmm.
of what's going on in our bodies because we're kind of numbing it out or pushing it aside to try to get to the next checkbox or whatever it is that we're trying to do. So,
Absolutely.
do you find that a lot with your
Absolutely.
clients that they're just like too busy almost to give themselves the care they need?
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. Even I mean, myself included, when I first started to really realize like, oh, wait, there's something to this hormone thing and things are changing. Yeah, we unfortunately, just stack our days heavy. And if we have kids or if we're taking care of our parents too on top of the kids, I mean, it can become really dense in terms of all the things we're doing. So it is taking the time to slow down, but finding like what works for you. I just did a podcast with someone the other day and had a like huge realization of, we talk about these morning routines, we talk about these evening routines that certain folks are putting books out on, which I think are great. But I think finding the tidbits, not feeling like you have to do all the things,
Right.
finding what works for you is really important. So that's kind of where I kind of have folks starting to look at this whole thing where you get little mini portions of slowdown.
Yeah, absolutely. As a recovering perfectionist, I can definitely relate with that because I mean, oftentimes we think we have to do everything or nothing. And,
Yeah.
little things make a big difference. That's for sure. So I know when we were first talking about doing the podcast together, you had mentioned talking about like how EFT and breath work combined with
Mm-hmm.
like mitochondria and circulation enhancement can really help us with anti-aging. And I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of dig into that. And
Yeah.
I think it's probably important for the sake of both me and our listeners to kind of start by defining circulation enhancement and the role of mitochondria.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I geek so hard sometimes. And
Me too.
I've been told, I just did a master class and someone was like, that was really great info, but I think some of it was like over here. So great idea to explain that. So circulation is our blood flow in general. And as an acupuncturist, I learned about circulation in terms of how it is so crucial for us to be healthy. If the blood isn't flowing, then we've got some issues. So the best way I can describe it to folks is most of us have had a situation where we've went outside, it's cold outside, and our nose starts to get cold, or your fingertips get cold, or your lips get cold. And if you're out there long enough, maybe you get purple lips and you start chattering. That is circulation moving from your extremity, going into your core to try to keep you basically functioning on a basic level. When it's hot out, what happens? We get sweating, we get warm, our cheeks might get rosy. That's circulation moving to your exterior. Well, that's all good and dandy when it happens, but on the course of a normal day, we're not exposing ourselves to these extremes, which is why the Wim Hof and those different types of types of exposure treatments do actually help with circulation, because our body gets lazy. And when we look at circulation for hormones and things of that nature in women's health, we're looking at circulation to the liver, circulation to the ovaries, circulation even through the heart. We're gonna have it, because if we didn't, we'd be dead. But circulation from the heart through to your tissues and to the areas that for most women can resonate, where we get a little bit of cellulite or weight gain. We want circulation there. And as we get older, we start to see that sometimes fat deposits develop and things of that nature. Now, why does that happen? Because the cells that are in the outside, the periphery of the body, aren't getting as much blood flow to them. Inside each and every single one of your cells, you have something called the mitochondria, which are little factories. Think of them as like little turbines that just grab some nutrients like a hamster wheel. They take them in and then they spit off energy for you. Now, in that process of them taking in energy and spitting off, or taking in nutrients and spitting off energy, they can create a little bit of exhaust, which I call it cell poop. Sometimes that can build up.
Love it.
It happens. Your cells have trash. And sometimes that builds up and then we feel fatigued. Things aren't working so well. And it kind of backs up the system, meaning we'll end up with improper flow of nutrients to the area. The body's default mechanism is to store it. That's how we get stored fat. And it's how it happens in the liver. It's how it happens in the cellulite situation too. And those are the ones that I like to explain, because a lot of people have heard about fatty liver. A lot of people have heard about cellulite, and cellulite's probably very nice because it's not nice, but it's visual. and we can see that how that happens. So really what my whole MO with a lot of treatment is to enhance circulation within the body. And EFT, breath work, those things enhance circulation because, and this is where it gets a little weird, is because when we're stressed, when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're depressed, we hunker down, right? We like
constrict, close. If anybody who's not watching, both of us are kind of like closing our bodies in, and that restriction kind of happens within us.
And the same thing is our shoulders go up too. So then we constrict and we wear shoulders for earrings. And the more that you do that, the more you have decreased circulation, and you're sending messages to your body that like something's about to attack me like right now. It's like the same response you get when someone's about to punch you. If you had cousins that were evil like I did, you just get that like a tighten. So perfect. all of you who are clenching and tightening, pelvic floor issues, another thing women can kind of associate with that. That's what I'm talking about in terms of circulation and the emotional response to it. And this is where EFT and breathwork can open up, and hypnosis can open up the circulation flows. And I can go woo-woo into, how
go there. I love all of this.
And it opens up your channels too, in terms of your energetic channels. And for those of you guys who are familiar with acupuncture or familiar with your chakras, this opens the flow up there when we're not so hunkered down and in protect mode. And I mean, that's kind of where I love working in that realm of kind of bridging the woo-woo and the like sciencey stuff and how it kind of plays out for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are there any techniques or supplements or anything that you love for breaking down things like cellulite or anything? Like, is this like a better time in my life to get back into like dry brushing or something like that?
Dry brushing is good. I'll be honest, like people will be like, yeah, doc, I've been dry brushing for years and I swear it doesn't work. Well, it's not hurting you. And here's the thing, like it's a gentle technique. It doesn't feel like it's as much. You can layer onto it. In the shower, I'm always, and so if you're watching this, we've got hands to the heart movement or feet to the heart movement. If you're gonna, wash yourself, just create a new habit of how you wash. You already got dry brushing built in there. So yes, this is the time to do that. But in terms of trying to get to that cellulite and trying to enhance circulation, this is the time you want like rosemary or cedar or grapefruit oil. Those three, cinnamon also, some people that can be a little bit fiery, but those types of essential oils in like jojoba or a lotion, or drive it even further in, magnesium oil.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of magnesium in all of its forms.
Yeah. I just bathe me in it. I'm good.
Yes, literally. I mean, the magnesium flakes in the tub, I love, or like the oil in the tub. Absolutely. How about grapefruit seed extract? I
Hmm.
know my mom got me hooked on that one, and I put that in like my electrolytes and things in the morning when I'm getting ready to work
Absolutely.
out.
Yeah, it's so here's the thing about all the citruses. In the Chinese medicine world, like the citrus seeds, the citrus peels are known to enhance circulation within the body, and especially with the concept of liver qi stagnation, which is you're angry, you're irritable, you're frustrated. That's when your liver's bogged down, circulation's not going through, which means hormones aren't going through there well, blood's not going through there well, detox isn't happening well. So
Yeah.
like orange peels, lemon peels, lime peels, and seeds.
All right, I might need to up that a little bit because it keeps coming up with my acupuncturist that perhaps there's a like a blood deficiency to my liver. Like that's kind of what she keeps picking
Mm.
up on. So she's got me taking some Chinese herbs and things, and taking really good care of me. And we're noticing positive differences. But I'm always looking for other ways I can do
Yeah.
things. But of course, we don't want to overdo it.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's a point at which you can, but a lot of things like peels and natural stuff that you can throw into teas and whatnot, as long as you're not doing like 2 full peels a day. I would say for most folks, of course, consult with your doctor. I can't,
Sure.
give advice to folks that I don't
Yeah.
know, but you're safer with peels. The seeds they're stronger, so things to think about there. But you mentioned blood deficiency. Let's talk about blood deficiency. What the
Okay.
heck does that mean? Because like even back in the 1800s, we would talk about things tonics to strengthen blood. And if you look at if you get into any of the older books or things of that nature, what the heck does this mean, or what does blood deficiency mean? If you don't have good blood, meaning iron in the blood, selenium, it's minerals, it's magnesium, that's probably why you love the magnesium, these
Mhm.
kind of these
And my
kind of
iron is
minerals.
known to dip. So, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. Jump right in. This is great. No, yeah. So if things dip like that, and if you tend towards anemia, a lot of times, like even the hypothyroid folks, Hashimoto's folks, this is super common because there's the connection between the gut not absorbing the nutrients here. And so blood deficiency really has a root in how well you digest food, how much proteins you're getting in, how many nutrients in terms of nutrient dense food, but also like your minerals that you are intaking. And we know if we don't grow our own food, and even then, if you grow your own food, depending on what your soil is like, you may have to supplement with some minerals. And so, blood deficiency back in like the 1800s, they were having people do tonics of certain herbs and beets, beet greens,
Yeah.
spinach, all of those things to help. And if you don't have all the minerals to make the blood strong, what that means is that you won't circulate as well because now we're missing signaling mechanisms like our sodiums and our potassiums and our calciums and magnesiums, because those guys all work together to open these little channels. So back to those mitochondria I was talking about, the little wheel, the little turbines that make energy, they need sodium and potassium to help open up what we call voltage gated channels. And we
Okay.
use these channels, or sodium potassium channels and voltage gated channels. For those of you who are researching me right here, we're taught voltage gated channels have to do with nerves. Sodium and potassium channels have to do with making energy and things of that nature. But what they do is they help us to move circulation better. So
Uh,
anyway, fun little
all
tidbits
fascinating.
there.
No, I
Yeah.
love that. I'm still just beginning to learn about that and what it means for me personally. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate all of that. So what are some of like the most interesting
Yeah.
things that you've been able to use acupuncture to treat?
Oh man. Erectile dysfunction is one of them. I
Yeah.
know it sounds super strange to put that out, but that's
Yeah,
one
we
of
use
them.
hypnosis for it too. So
Yeah. Yeah, acupuncture, like, is there going to be an erection in the visit? No, but what happens is
right.
it's back to circulation, and you're probably going to hear that kind of repeat for me today. But that pelvic floor pain, pelvic floor spasms, that can be it can be amazing. Hiccups, there's another interesting one. Chronic hiccups, acupuncture can help because it can help to relax the diaphragm and reset it.
Okay.
So those are some of them in terms of like periods and menopause, hot flashes, all of that. But like I'm trying to think of like what is like the craziest thing I've done with acupuncture. The usually things that people don't think about would be more like the erectile dysfunction and
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff.
I
I'll
think it's
come
always
up with
interesting.
something.
Like in both of our lines of work, I think so many people like they think it's just for a specific thing. You know,
Right.
that's the whole reason why I didn't get into EFT for years after knowing what it was, because I was locked in this idea that it was for like war veterans and Olympic athletes and that kind of thing, instead of realizing that is this like mom of all these young kids who was stressed out and trying to like run my businesses and work through all my own blocks and everything. It would have been perfect for every single one of my struggles and challenges, as well as my physical pains and everything else. And acupuncture is very much the same way, where like whatever you can feel, you can work with. And I think when
Mhm.
people are actually able to open up that door and think about their life through that lens, they're like, ooh, there's so many ways that I could apply all of these things. And I love using both of them. Like now I love going to the acupuncturist and, doing the EFT and the hypnosis and like kind of layering all of it and just seeing what evolves from there.
It's such a cool thing to put together as a treatment, because you're working, subconscious. Acupuncture works on subconscious too, because you've got needles and you're not doing anything, but all of a sudden you walk out of there and you're like, I'm floating, I feel amazing, and you're like, I didn't do anything. Cool.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to layer those together. I love all that stuff. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. It also comes back to the perfectionist thing though sometimes, because I think oftentimes I can't tell you how many times I hear from my own clients like, "Oh, I keep forgetting to tap," or "I keep forgetting to use this on this," or whatever. I'm like, "Well, I do too." Like, there's so many things we could use it on. I'm sure I miss opportunities every minute of every day, but that's not really what the point is. The point is about getting the relief where you need it, when you need it, and, just having a little bit more elevated consciousness, not making sure to use it every time you possibly could, because we would just be tapping for the rest of our lives or in hypnotic trance or with needles stuck in us. So that's not really living either.
Right. No, it's true. It's true. Yeah, I got to that when I was working with EFT, with you, and being like, should I tap now? And it ended up being like, what I was called to tap with, and what
Right.
felt right, versus like every little moment. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
you
So I want to talk about this all day energy that you want to help women get,
know,
because I definitely have some slumps from time to time. Not like I have had in the past, but they're still there. Like what are the culprits or the
oh,
things that, help with that the most?
oh gosh. That awesome question. One of my favorite things to work with is fatigue, because one, it's a challenge, but it's also fun figuring out what exactly is hijacking you. And in the natural medicine realm, unfortunately, we get looped into this like adrenal fatigue concept that someone created. But like honestly, it's so much more than that, because our adrenals, yes, they produce cortisol. Yes, cortisol is kind of what keeps us awake, keeps us going during the day, helps us deal with fight or flight. But we make cortisol in our skin. We make cortisol in our heart. We make it in our intestines. We make it in, our thymus, which is immune system type of gland. It's crazy. And I don't know why we're not talking about that. So here's the crazy thing. If when I see someone's symptoms, like, okay, I've got fatigue. Okay, what else? Like, when did it start? Like, go back on your timeline, kind of like when we do hypnosis or things of that nature. We go back to like, when did something happen? When did it start? What was going on in your life? Sometimes we can pin back fatigue to a chronic infection that started. Kind of like when I was talking about the throat stuff and folks, before we hit official record,
Yeah.
when I was
Yeah.
talking about chronic strep infections, because that for a lot of people was like the first thing that hit their immune system, and their immune system just got stuck looping on that, and then they ended up with enlarged tonsils or enlarged
Right.
adenoids
There
or
was an
snoring.
emotional and physical thing happening at the same time, and sometimes people don't realize that they were linked.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with fatigue can be a chronic infection. It can be an autoimmune type of infection happening within the body. And I'm giving you guys the extremes first. I
Right.
apologize.
Sure.
I'm going way out first.
You're just Google doctoring it first with all the
I, I'm
worst case scenarios.
saving you all the trouble of Google doctoring. We're going to the worst ones here. And I say worse or more severe, but really those, all of that can be reversed. Autoimmune stuff can be reversed. So what I'm getting at here is that fatigue can also be just straight up like not absorbing your nutrients across the line, and kind of like that blood deficiency thing we were talking about earlier. It could be a deficiency of enzymes, so not getting enough digestive system enzymes in to break down your food. So it could be a lot of different things. So finding the root of it first is huge. And how do we do that? We literally look back and go like, okay, when did it start, or when did it start to worsen? And then we also look at situations throughout the day, because there are people who drain you. There are situations, there are things in your house like plumbing issues, there are things that can drain you. And it's a matter of, the more
No,
curious you
no
get.
pun intended with the plumbing, right? Yeah.
No, no,
For
no,
those of
none.
you who are listening, I'm having a large plumbing issue in my house right now, and I thought that the plumber coming was actually going to get in the way of this recording today. But here we are, and everything's working out just fine. But yeah, there's all sorts of things that can drain us for sure,
Yeah.
And I think about like my tiredness, and it was probably something that started after having three kids, definitely on the
Mm-hmm.
fourth, where like I would lay down in the afternoon with one of them when they got to like the end of like when they would take a normal nap, and I still wanted them to nap because I wanted to take a rest too. So I would just start like laying down with them, and I'd meditate with them or whatever, and I'd usually fall asleep for 15 or 20 minutes and then get on with my day. And I actually love that practice. I normally lay down for somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes almost every afternoon that I can, just to recharge, because I wake up very early. I'm normally up at like 4 a.m. and I don't normally go to bed until 9 or 10 at night. So like I need a little something in the middle of the day to just
Mm-hmm.
recharge. But then I trying to differentiate that from like a slump versus just like a natural need to recharge. And some days, like I'll explain it to my husband, I'm like, I feel kind of like narcoleptic. Like there's no choice right now. Like I must sleep. Like I'm going to do it one way or another. Like just get me to the bed. And other days it's like I'm just gonna go like meditate and relax, like, and I feel like less slumpy. So yeah, there's that.
And that's kind of how for a lot of people fatigue plays out. Like some days it's worse, other days it's better. It's a matter of figuring out like, all right, what sets you up for the days where you're narcoleptic compared to the days where you're not, and looking back through like, oh, okay, the day before I had like a lot of clients, I had a lot of mental work, and so I am rebooting. I do need to recharge, because I think that's something that we overlook,
Yeah.
is that we need to recharge. And when I say all day energy, I'm not actually saying that you can't take a nap and recharge,
Right.
but that charging is quite possibly one of the most fundamental things for fatigue. And remember when I was talking about the sodium and potassium thingies that make energy with the turbines? So that is, get outside in your bare feet, walk around, let the earth recharge you, little woo woo
Mhm.
on that side. Or sometimes folks just straight up need to use a little bit more of good quality salt, like Celtic sea salt or
Mhm.
Redmond salt
Oh, I love
to
salt. I have very low blood pressure too, if that adds into any of these things that we're talking about. So I just eat salt all day.
here's the thing. We've been brainwashed to think that salt is bad. Well, if you're doing Morton's salt, sorry,
No,
Morton's, don't
no,
put dextrose in salt, and I'll maybe eat your
no.
salt. Um, Dextrose, by the way, sugar in the salt.
Mhm. Yeah, no, not a good idea.
No idea why that happens. Well, I do know why that happens, but that's a whole nother podcast. So Celtic sea salt
Yeah,
and Redmonds, right? So you can recharge yourself with a little bit of that. I will have people, instead of using all the fancy like electrolyte drinks, God, those are expensive. You could pop a little extra salt like you're doing.
mhm,
You could do a little bit of raw honey. Bee pollen has a lot of great little nutrients for a pick me up. And so I will use this for folks to help with a recharging pattern as we're figuring out like really what's draining you throughout the day. And it very well could be like with kids, what I found is that you've trained yourself to take the nap. You've trained yourself to, push hard, hard, hard. And then, then you take care of you later. And so you almost have to think about like, do I need this? Can I keep this pattern going? And does it serve me? Or do I need to
right,
retrain myself something else too? So there's a lot with fatigue, but I want everyone to really understand that there's something underlying. It's not just that it's not always that you just mentally drained yourself. It's more to it than that, because on days that we're pushing harder with our brains, or we're pushing harder with the kids, we got to take them here, 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 we might need more protein. We might need,
right,
we might be running on for not enough food. That often is one of the most like common things,
right.
because women get all scared about not eating once we get older, because then the metabolism stop.
So we typically need way more protein than we're getting. That's for sure. But I've also
And
heard
to,
that like laying down in the afternoon is really good for like that
yeah.
blood liver deficiency and stuff because that helps it to get back into the liver. And, that I think also helps to pick me
Yes.
back up. So I,
Yeah.
I try to look at
Yeah.
it as a good thing. It's not like I'm spending like the
Yeah.
whole afternoon in bed. It's like usually like 20 minutes, I'm in, I'm out. I do some hypnotherapy or, I listen to a meditation and just kind of ease in and out of sometimes it's non-sleep deep rest and sometimes it's like I zonked out for 10 minutes. But
Yeah.
either way, it's recharging. And it was definitely
Yeah.
a pattern for a while. And I did get conscious about that. And I'll have weeks where I don't lay down, and it's like I'm just walking on sunshine, kind of, feeling like I don't need it. And other weeks I'll, like we were driving back from vacation and, it was in the car. So I didn't really have anything I needed to do. I was writing my book in the car while my husband drove back from Cape Cod last weekend and we got stuck in traffic. It was like a 12-hour drive. It was
Oh
ridiculous.
no.
I probably took like 4 meditation breaks on the way back because I was just like staring at the computer, writing, wrist cramp, and just like, okay, 20 minutes, peace out. Yeah, come
Hmm.
back, tend to the kids, pass some drinks and snacks around, write for a little bit longer, 20 minutes, peace out. And that was just kind of my rhythm for the day. But got a couple chapters written, so
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you can convince someone else to drive,
I
it's the
don't.
best time for
I offer all the time, so I just don't get taken up on it. So it's fine by me. I love being a passenger.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. No, there's a lot of value in recharging. And I think, for society, we don't value it as much in
Mm-mm.
terms of taking the time to recharge, even if it's like 2 minutes, that can help
Yep.
keep the momentum going for the all day energy concept that I'm working with
Yeah.
folks on.
I love
Yeah.
the little thing on my Apple Watch where it just has me like breathe for a minute and does like the haptic feedback. I'm just like, if that's all I can do, it still feels like very rejuvenating.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's probably one of the number one things that I've actually got people to pay attention to is their Apple Watch. So I'm like, I work with it. We go with it.
What
Like,
what labs do you feel like are the most helpful when you're working with people? And why does having somebody like you read them benefit people so much more than like their traditional like primary care physician?
great question. So the chem panel, which is straight up, you can get it from LabCorp, Quest, any basic lab. It's a chemistry panel. You want the 14, which is more or less the expanded one, is one of the most valuable tests. Also, something called the CBC, the complete blood count
Mhm.
with differential and platelet. What that basically means is it shows you your breakdown of your white blood cells and it shows you your platelet levels. Those two by far, you can glean a lot of info from just that, which is really cool because it's insurance covers
I was gonna
those.
say those are
You
typically
and
covered tests that, most people can handle getting done.
Yep, and under way under $100 for if you have to do cash pay. And you can see, right there what is going on. And there are lots of resources online to see your parameters. But here's the thing. By having someone like myself consulting with a functional med doc or a naturopathic doctor who's been trained in what I call functional medicine parameters of the labs, this is important because what we're looking at when you say functional med lab parameters, we're looking off of researched values that have been researched. We didn't just say, oh, that's my idea of what's healthy. No, it's
Right.
research parameters. And unfortunately, the medical world is usually 10 to 20 years behind the research, just the way it is. So we're looking at what's coming out. Now, also, these parameters of labs, they are based on 90% of the population. If you look around you, 90% of the population isn't exactly the model of health. So these wide parameters are not optimizing things.
Right.
So that's why you want someone like myself or a functional medicine trained doc who knows the labs well, because we can look at a complete blood count and look at your electrolytes, so sodium, potassium, chloride, and we can see if you're shifting in a direction where you're depleting yourself, or maybe you're shifting in a direction where things are becoming really out of balance, like not depletion, but like we've got to work on something seriously in the body, like sodium's way up here, potassium's way down here, and your chloride is like super low too, or something weird happening in that case. We can also tell from carbon dioxide levels in a chem panel if you're over breathing or under breathing. So I can call you out on your breathing, and I can tell you, like, okay, are you breathing short breathing, not breathing deep enough, and you've got a lot more acidic blood. More acidic blood will tend to more fatigue, more aches and pains in the body. harder recovery from workouts. So just that can give us info. And then the complete blood count will tell us if you're tending towards anemia, if you're not getting your nutrients in, but also will tell us about white blood cell infections, allergies, parasites, that kind of side of thing. So we can glean a lot from that. You do not have to be doing these very expensive fancy panels.
That's awesome. I love that. Outside
Mhm.
of the basics like that, are there tests that you find to be extremely valuable?
I do love I love the Dutch test. It's a urine metabolism for hormones. And I love it because it tells us how we break down our estrogens in the liver and via our cells. This is information that, while yes, it helps you to determine if you're going to take a bioidentical hormone and how to adjust it and what you need to do to detox the hormones effectively. For those of you who don't want to go into that realm, what this test can show you is like your risk for breast cancer, really, because it can show you like breast and ovarian and colon, because they're all kind of connected with the estrogens. If you're not metabolizing estrogens well, you may have the potential for building them up. And it could be toxins, it could be diet, it could be, hormones if you're taking, it could be even herbs that are not metabolizing well, they're building up in your system. And of course, we double check it by looking at blood and saliva hormones too, because those are going to give you more of the in the moment stuff. But the urine metabolism of hormones is quite possibly, I just posted on yesterday, quite possibly something that could save your life if you have things building up and it's like, okay, now I can eat certain foods or take certain herbs to help clear and like maximize how you clear the hormones from your body.
That's awesome. I love
Mhm.
that. So many different angles to think about with our health, that's for sure. What does
Mhm.
your program when you work with people look like? Can you tell us a little about your program and how people work with you?
Sure. So the Defy Aging Formula, we are literally, I'm bringing folks in at a level where we're trying to figure out your hormones, right? We're figure out energy, how, it could be anyone in the realm of like, yeah, I'd like to optimize my hormones. I want to know if I need bioidenticals or not. But it could also be like the fatigue, seeing your skin changing, you're just feeling like you're aging faster. Or it could be the metabolism side of things too, where you're noticing things are slowing down. Now, it's not a weight loss program. I want to make that clear. It's an optimization of your hormones and body program. And the goal of it is to teach you how to become your own best doctor. Now, does it mean you'll never need a doctor? No, I wish I could do that. But it's more so that you're adjusting your health and hormones over time and you're not left in this realm of like, oh, it's just aging. Yeah,
Right.
we can't help you. And it's a group program, meaning like we meet once a week Q&As. We do one-on-one sessions because I do think that's valuable. We also do weekly check-ins. And then I have a course that goes with it where I'm breaking it down step by step, all of the things you want to know to be able to create a sustainable plan for yourself to adjust your hormones and your metabolism and help you live well for life, really.
That's so important. And I'm sure that weight loss is a common side effect of
Mhm.
doing that, even though it's not the target of the program. So,
It is. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Are there any things that you find are particularly helpful with weight loss when we're kind of getting into these upper 30s, 40s, even 50s?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. A couple different things. Understanding your metabolism is huge. I use the Lumen. You have one too.
I do.
So,
Yep.
I use the Lumen to kind of tell me, and now they just did an update. So if anyone's listening, this has used it before, they did an update to help you break down. They ask you questions in the app more to help you break down your levels and your scores. And for those of you that haven't done the Lumen, it gives you scores in terms of, are you in carb burn? Are you in fat burn?
Right.
And they also give you on the fly, like this is the kind of a meal plan. You can change through it and go through it. Understanding how your body works with food is core for metabolism because
It's
we're
really helpful data. I really enjoy it for the data that it provides.
yeah, and so that's really like my number one. The rest of it is figuring out like, do you have excess testosterone? Because if that's an issue, then you're going to be having issues with blood sugar. Is there insulin resistance? We do want to know about that. Is there a thyroid issue or is there a autoimmune thyroid issue going on? That can impact you. It's not magical. Like you get your thyroid, dialed in and wait drops off. I wish it's not. I want everyone to understand it's not that. And balancing your hormones, certain things, yes, can help with weight, but like even bioidentical hormones aren't instantly going to drop weight on folks because it just doesn't work that way. You have to work on balancing the body. So looking at your liver and liver health, metabolism, of sugars in particular, and if you have insulin resistance issues, those are two really biggies. And then what the bottom line is from there is looking at your relationship with food, your habits around food, and what your body really needs. Not like what guru down the street's talking about keto and all that.
Right.
What your body needs.
And are those things that you're covering in your program also, or is that more separate?
Oh yeah, we go deep into that, and the Lumen is part of the program. I left it optional, just because I do see that some people can overwhelm them, and it kind of bases on where we're at as a whole. But there's always a metabolic reset at the beginning of my program. It's 42 days where we take out all fats and let the liver do its thing. And that's where a lot of folks will end up losing some weight at the beginning. And we also have a stress reset, which is also very nice. That kind of resets how the body is dealing with fight or flight. Because
Yeah.
one thing, I don't know, you've heard of adrenal fatigue? You had nodded before. In my industry, a lot of folks will say like, oh, it takes years to heal it once you've burned yourself out. But we have data that shows that like if someone was septic in the hospital and super drained, they can reboot within a couple months. So
Yeah, I don't personally subscribe to anything that says something takes a certain amount of time.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
I,
I've used things like EFT and hypnosis to heal things much faster than any doctor thought that they would.
mhm,
And it's yeah, I think
yeah.
it's more up here than that there's like a certain amount of time that it takes for something to heal in a certain way.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah,
broken
that's
bones and things. Like, I mean, I don't know. That gets a little bit woo, but I think what we believe and what we call and do and attract to ourselves, we can speed things up a lot more than what normal time frames are for things.
exactly. And so with the stress reset, it's 1 week. And we are doing some EFT, we are doing different work techniques. And so I feel like it's sped up getting results within the program. And so like you're saying, it's definitely where the mind's at, what you believe. We have powerful brains and bodies. We can do a
Yeah.
we're giving credit for.
So before we wrap things up, Jannine, as somebody who has been through my Becoming More Me program, I would love it if you could just shed a little light on how perhaps it helped and supported you, what kind of breakthroughs that you had while we were working together, and things like that. I think that coming from somebody who's already so in tune with like how the body, the meridians, all these things work, to understand how this work also benefited you is like really helpful for people.
Absolutely. I'd love to share. So, working with you helped me to really just be aware of what was happening in my life that wasn't serving me, and how my reaction to it created more discord, and frustration and whatnot in my life, and how that changed my energy for the rest of the day. And so being able to be aware of that, notice my energy change, notice that shift, I'm like, oh wait, okay, this is happening. And before I just was, I'm angry about this isn't working, and I would just ruminate. But then I had now the ability to tap. But then after that, okay, it was talking with you. And I think that's where I really enjoyed dialoguing back and forth to be like, okay, how do I move with this? How do I move with that? And having that insight really helped me in the moment, because I think for a lot of people, we can do one-off EFT with a counselor, say, and it's great, but not having that in between access is
Right.
is hard, because now questions come up, ponderings come up, things of that nature. So that was kind of my first thing. And then in terms of my breakthroughs, I now do not have as this fiery, fueled reaction to a lot of things that were bothering me before. And so I think the biggest breakthrough out of all of it was the awareness and the plan that we created for me for when things aren't going like I want them to, and I feel like I have to work harder or I have to either disconnect from something. Instead, now I have the ability to go, okay, this is happening. I can choose to change how I think about how this is happening. I can do the EFT to let the charge go and then move on. And it's worked really well. It's worked really well for me. And
Oh, I'm
things
so
are
glad to hear that. And I'm so glad to hear that it helped you like in the moment. Because I personally
mhm,
feel like that's one of the most valuable things is being able to work with somebody for 6 months or a year or however long they want to, because that means that we get to go through like, strange anniversaries of things, or,
mhm.
in your case, like you were making some big pivots in your business. And, to be able to go through those little things that come up, the limiting beliefs, the things that kind of ping you and stuff throughout the process and work them out as they come, I think is really valuable. I think a lot of people go and they seek out help after something happens as a way to kind of revisit the past and work through something. But we can do that through the present moment, things that are happening, and get a lot more impact out of it. So I'm glad that was beneficial to you. Thank you for sharing about your experience.
Hey, no problem. And of course, the biggest thing was me launching a program and getting the
Yeah.
program out. And so now program's out. I've been doing master classes. These are things that I was, having some hangups on before, and now it's second nature. So we're good there. And one of the things that I love about what you teach is that it's an ongoing process, much like I teach with folks too. And so, it's just keeping the tools going and building on it. And
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough. Definitely helped me
Oh.
a lot, a lot. Thank you.
Well, I very much enjoyed our time working together. And, yeah, I always am learning so many things from you because you're so amazing at what you do and the way that you help people. So tell us where people can find you and learn more about your amazing new program.
Well, thanks. So if you head over to doctor spelled out JKRAUSE, N is in Nancy, D is in dog, so jkrauseND.com. That's the main site for me. And then I am active on Instagram, and also that's doctor, so DR, Jannine, JANNINE, Krause, KRAUSE. You can find me there. And then, of course, my podcast is going to give you my personality. And also, I'm interviewing a lot of great folks like Theresa on there just to really help folks understand what's out there when they're looking for their health fix. And so the Health Fix
Absolutely.
podcast is that. Yep.
Yes, I will have all of those things so that no one needs to worry about how to spell anything in the show notes. And Jannine's podcast is awesome. Her Instagram is always on point. You're very good at keeping up with that and creating amazing content. So definitely go check it out. Is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap things up? I know we could talk for hours. We
Oh
need a
my
part
goodness.
two later on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Really the last thing I'd say just to leave folks with is just become very curious about yourself. Start to really explore yourself, take some notes, even if it's weekly. The more you know about yourself and the more you see patterns and habits and behaviors, the more you can connect the dots with your health, your hormones, and mental health in that case too. And so that's where Theresa and I really shine. And I think that's
Yeah.
where I encourage folks to look. Start there. Start there. Simple stuff.
I
Look at
couldn't
yourself.
agree more. Just starting to shine that light and get that awareness changes everything. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with me today, Janine. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for tuning in and listening. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with me today. If you loved this episode, please leave a review or simply share it with someone else who would get great benefit from it too. If you share on social media, please tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. And if your inner critic is still trying to argue with those facts, hit me up. We've got work to do.